This was our biggest game jam yet. We hosted the 5th BIG GDevelop Game Jam back in May, and 1,653 people signed up. There were horror games, racing games, exploration games, and even games with really good voice acting.
In his moments of solitude, "What do you want from me?" he shouts.
And they were all made using the theme Unstable. And while there were a ton of games to talk about, in this video, we're going to be showcasing the top 10 community voted games, some honorable mentions that featured 3D, leaderboards, or mobile compatibility, and then the top 5 judges' picks, which will be getting prizes from this jam's list of sponsors. So let's start off with the community winners. In 10th place is Treasure Mountain by Kabaroken, which is a high-score game where the objective is to stack as much treasure under the line without dropping anything to get the highest score possible. In 9th place is Breathe In, Breathe Out by JJ Games 64, Rafunzel, Sulfur Cretin, and Tronix. A game where you play as Frank, a person with anxiety, who is constantly fighting off self-doubt and stress by breathing in and breathing out. In 8th is Unstable Dungeon by Tullenvaki Productions and Adaman Interactive, which is an Indiana Jones-inspired game where you're trying to find the exit of the unstable dungeon, while running away from living skeletons and the floor itself crumbling under your feet. In 7th is Battle Bear Bumper Bash by Scott Pedley and Ross Medlin. The game is basically bumper cars on ice, but with bears and bombs. The ice is constantly breaking below the player, making it harder and harder to stay on the ice as the playing field becomes only pockets of safe spaces to drive on. In 6th place is Unstable Cat by Pandako, which is a high-score game where you play as a timid cat that's running away from a horde of falling rats. But when the cat builds up the nerve to fight back, or when they eat a spicy pepper, you get to go on a rampage for a while to take out as many rats as you can before you go back to running away. In 5th is Keep It Straight by BDJ7217, which is a single-room wave defense game where you fight off waves of enemies, earn money, and then get to spend that money on a variety of upgrades between rounds. And the unstable twist of this game is that the room you're in is balancing on a single point. In 4th place is Swing Delivery by Serious Leaf, which is a simple game about delivering a package with an unstable board. The game's description says you will need to deliver the component, a device that explodes when in contact with any walls, to the teleporter at the end of each level. In 3rd place is Belfry Bat by Clark Padmore and Joyce, where you as a bat in a bell tower are trying to fly around, but you're a strange little bat because you can only fly in a circular pattern. So you have to navigate tight sections of the bell tower while alternating between flying clockwise or counterclockwise. In 2nd place is Tipsy Tavern by Breadfruit Works, which is a game where you're a bartender who happens to be an octopus. And so of course you use your super long tentacles to save drinks that you see are about to fall over, putting them in their proper place. The controls are really simple with just 2 buttons, but it is surprisingly nerve-wracking. The number 1 community voted game is Steady, Steady, Steady by Cloud Lantern, which is a wacky physics game about transporting unstable cargo to its destination by controlling 2 separate drones with their own individual controls. The cargo that you need to transport ranges from simple square blocks all the way to a cog that rolls around as you desperately try to keep it on the platform. Now for the honorable mentions, starting with some games that were made in 3D. Jitter Jump by mrtsg.art, which is a blocky game where you spin and launch your rectangular prism to get it to the end of the level. Pit Runner by Lev1, a mixed 2D/3D game with interesting interactions between platforming and draggable physics objects. Then there's Incendiary Solutions by Attadio, a game where you're a waste disposal worker in a building that's literally falling apart as you work. Then there's Starfake by Mr. Pandori, a game which pushed some limits and just so happened to be the game that we showed off in the beginning of the video. Then some games with mobile controls. We have Chaotic Levels by Vegetato, which is a speedrunning game that shows you the ghost of other players that played the game before you. Then Stabled by Rico TV, As Static, and Fidel Delgado, which is an escape room game where you're inside of a barn. Then there's Tellerand Rim of the Plate by Ambitar, which is a story-driven space exploration game. And then lastly, a few games with leaderboards, starting with Goober's Cooking Heist by GameDev, which is a game where you go through a level that continues to change and evolve every time you go through it. Then there's Unstable Reactor by Jerfix, which is a simple game about avoiding a nuclear meltdown. And then there's Core Crisis by Just a Game Developer YT, which is kind of the same thing, but with Among Us style minigames instead. And then lastly is Shipping Be Like by Mike51213, which is kind of like Tetris, but with physics and a boat. Now before we get to the top 5 judges' picks, we'll show off what those games could win. So the game that places first in the judges' picks will be both published and featured on Crazy Games. Crazy Games is an awesome web game hosting platform that gives players access to cool games and developers a chance to earn money through their built-in ad system. And the first place winner will also win a physical goodies bag with some Crazy Games swag to help show off their win. The first place judges pick will also win a license for Spine. Spine is a well-known animation software built specifically for making games. And Spine has actually been integrated directly into GDevelop as one of the object types that you can pick from, making it even easier for a developer to use Spine with GDevelop. Then, the top 3 games will be given the FX Tools bundle from Code Menu. Code Menu produces software for game developers to help them better animate their games. The bundle includes animation tools that do everything from particle effects to smears. And then the top 4 games will win a copy of Asprite. Asprite is a great tool specifically designed for creating pixel art and pixel art animations. It comes with a huge range of features to help you create art for your game. And the top 4 games will also receive vouchers to the Fanatical store. Fanatical being an online distribution platform that sells everything from games to game assets, often featuring bundles and sales that you can pick up with these vouchers from their online store. And then lastly, the top 3 judges' picks will earn a cash prize, and all of the top 5 games will earn some amount of in-engine GDevelop credits. And now to get to the top 5 judges' picks. Starting in 5th place with Quake Facility by NCN, which is a mobile-friendly game about stacking in as stable a way as possible to keep them from falling over during a Quake test period. It is surprisingly difficult, but is an excellent game to play on mobile devices. Then in 4th place is Bird and Bone by Maui Makes Games, which is a physics platformer game where you control a skeleton who's trying to help birds escape the mountain. And they would really appreciate it if you would stop dying. In 3rd is Unstable Dungeon by Tullenvaki Production and Amadan Interactive. All of the elements in this game come together to create a really intentional feeling game that was fun to get to experience as a player. And then 2nd place is Breathe In, Breathe Out by JJGame64, Rapunzel, Sulfur Cretin, and Twanix. This game's opening goes all out, and then the game mechanics come together and carry you through the experience all the way to the end. And then the number 1 pick game is Keep It Straight by BDJ7217. This wave-based shooter game features both ranged and melee combat against a select variety of enemies that each do a different thing, and lets you purchase upgrades that tweak a large number of different stats that influence combat, while the entire arena you're fighting in teeters on the top of a mountain. This game managed to integrate the unstable theme into their gameplay by including risk-reward upgrades that influence the weight of both the player and the enemies, causing the balance of the room to be even more unstable as the game progresses. Thank you to everyone who took part and submitted a game. Thank you to the moderators who helped to keep things civil. And thank you to everyone who playtested and gave feedback to games. We hope to see you all next time, where maybe we'll be showing off something you made.